My name is Leah, and this story doesn't start in a candlelit restaurant or on a rooftop under fairy lights, though I wish it did. It starts in a living room that still smelled faintly of the vanilla candles I'd lit that night, because I thought he'd notice. He never did, by the way. He was always too busy pretending he was the man I wanted him to be. When Ethan knelt in front of me, yes, he did the whole down on one knee routine, box snapping open like a magic trick. I thought I was hallucinating. We'd been together for 3 years. I'd been dropping hints since year 2. I'd stood by him through a job loss, a medical scare, his mother's endless passive-aggressive questions about when I'd finally make him an honest man. So when he did it, when he asked me to marry him, I said yes like it was the only word left in my throat. Yes. 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 It was so easy to believe the lie when I wanted it to be true. We didn't celebrate at a fancy restaurant that night. Instead, we sat cross-legged on my living room floor, eating leftover pad thai and giggling like we were 21 again. He told me he'd been planning this for months, that the ring had been hidden in his sock drawer for weeks. I laughed at how blind I'd been. I told him he was terrible at secrets. He kissed me so hard my teeth knocked together. I think about that now and wonder how he kept a secret that big while looking me dead in the eye. Maybe that was the first clue I should have caught. If a man can lie about a ring for months, what else can he hide in a drawer? I called my mom first. She screamed so loud she scared her new cat off the kitchen counter. Then my sister, my perfect older sister, Emma, picked up. She didn't scream. She said, finally, in that flat tone that always made me feel like an understudy in my own life. She meant well, I think. She always means well. She's the golden child. I'm the one who's a bit too sensitive, a bit too dramatic, a bit too much. I didn't care that night. Even Emma couldn't rain on me. I had the ring, I had the man, I had the future I'd built out of Pinterest boards and half-drunk conversations at 2 a.m. The next morning I woke up before him. I lay there and watched his chest rise and fall. I touched the band of the ring again and again, like it might vanish if I didn't keep checking. He looked so peaceful. Innocent. That word makes me laugh now. He wasn't innocent. He was just good at sleeping through storms he started himself. If you'd asked me then, I'd have told you he was the best man I'd ever met. He always texted back, he didn't mind my messy hair on lazy Sundays, he held my hand in public. He didn't flinch when I cried during arguments, he held me, told me I was too good for him. That should have been a warning sign too, shouldn't it? People say that when they know they're about to prove you right. The day after the proposal, he kissed me goodbye like he always did before leaving for work. I waved from the window, the ring catching the morning light like a disco ball. I made coffee, stared at my reflection in the microwave door, and for the first time in a long time, I liked what I saw. Someone wanted me forever. I wasn't second best anymore. I wasn't Emma's little sister with the messy love life. I was Leah, engaged, loved, chosen. God, I wish I could bottle that girl up and keep her safe from what I was about to find out. I spent the whole afternoon telling everyone. Group chats, a carefully posed ring photo on Instagram, even a call to my dad, who made the classic dad joke, is he sure what he's getting himself into? I laughed like it was adorable, not a warning. When Ethan came home that evening, I had candles lit again. I cooked, actually cooked, not just microwave meals. He smiled like a man who just dodged a bullet only he could see. We ate. We planned. We dreamed out loud. We didn't talk about where we'd live after the wedding. He brushed it off, we have time. I didn't care. I was drunk on the idea of forever. He knew that. He knew exactly how to feed me just enough dreams to keep me docile. I hate myself for making it so easy for him. I didn't know that night that the living room I sat in was the only place I'd ever really shared with him. That there was another set of fairy lights somewhere, draped over a different bed. That another woman's shampoo was lining the edge of a tub I'd never see, until I did. But that comes later. For now, there I was, ring on my finger, heart wide open, telling myself I'd finally won. The joke is, I didn't even know I was playing a game I could never win. And that's how it started, with a question, a yes, a ring, and a man who looked me in the eyes and lied so sweetly I almost thanked him for it. When people ask me now how I didn't see it coming, I want to ask them if they've ever really loved someone the way a hungry dog loves a bone it knows it'll never quite get all the meat off. It's not about what's there, it's about what you tell yourself is there, so you don't have to look at the hollow places underneath. I learned how to love like that from my mother. She stayed with my father for 18 years, 6 months, and 4 days longer than she should have, her words, not mine. She used to whisper that to me when she thought I was asleep. 18 years, 6 months, 4 days too long, Leah. Like it was a prayer or a curse. Maybe both. I remember sitting at the kitchen table when I was 8, pretending to do my homework while she cried over the sink, her tears dripping into the soapy water as she washed the same plate over and over again. I told myself that would never be me. But you don't escape these things, you inherit them. Like a family recipe for heartbreak that gets passed down with chipped china and bad knees. My sister Emma, though, Emma escaped. She was always better at everything: grades, makeup, lying to dad about where she was at midnight. She was the first to leave, too. Got a scholarship, met a decent guy, moved into a condo with stainless steel appliances and an HOA. Sometimes I think she looked back at me like she was checking to see if I'd figured out how to run too. I never did. After Mom finally left Dad, she found a part-time job at a bakery and a boyfriend named Roger who sold insurance and called her Sweet Pea like it was still 1954. She never married Roger. She said she liked the freedom. She told me, never let a man put you in a box you can't kick your way out of, Leah. But by then, it was too late. I'd already learned to crawl in and shut the lid myself. Ethan knew all this about me. He knew every broken, stupid piece. That's what made it worse. He knew my father was a serial cheater, that my mother's self-worth was a thrift store clearance rack, that I grew up believing love was something you had to earn with your silence and your patience. He knew I was terrified of ending up like her, alone, a rumor in someone else's mouth. He made me feel like I wouldn't have to be. That was his trick. That was my blind spot. I met Ethan at a friend's engagement party. The irony makes me want to scream now. He wasn't even supposed to be there, he'd tagged along with a coworker. I was standing by the dessert table, shoveling chocolate strawberries into my mouth because I hate small talk and I needed something to do with my hands. He just walked up, took a strawberry off my plate, and bit into it. Just like that. Like he already owned me. I should have walked away right then. Who steals food from a stranger? But he smiled with this crooked half-smile that said he knew exactly how charming he was. And I let him have it, the strawberry, my number, my Saturday nights. My future. He made it easy to trust him. He never yelled. He didn't ghost me when things got hard. He remembered my coffee order: almond milk, 2 sugars, no judgment when I changed my mind. He asked about my mom. He listened to the same stories twice and pretended they were new. He was patient when I picked fights over nothing just to see if he'd leave. He never did. Or so I thought. I can hear my mother's voice even now: you don't have to love him just because he loves you. Except he didn't love me. Not really. He loved the way I looked at him, like he was my ticket out of every bad pattern I'd dragged behind me since childhood. I told him everything too soon. I let him see the ugly parts before he'd earned the right. When my father died 3 years ago, Ethan was the one who sat with me in the funeral home while Emma fought with the lawyer over Dad's debts. I thought that meant he was my person, the one who'd never leave. But now I think maybe he stayed close because he knew I'd never suspect him if he did. Sometimes I wonder if he planned it all along, if he knew he'd propose when the guilt got too heavy. Or if he really did love me, in his own coward's way, and just didn't love me enough to be a good man. Maybe the truth is worse, maybe he just didn't care who got hurt, as long as it wasn't him. When he slipped that ring on my finger, I felt like I'd finally done something right. Like I'd broken the chain. Emma with her picture-perfect family could finally stop looking at me like a charity case. Mom could stop telling me, "You deserve better," in that voice that meant, "I know you won't choose it." For 2 days, I believed I'd outrun my mother's kitchen sink tears. I believed I was free of my father's wandering hands and my mother's quiet despair. I believed Ethan was the proof that I wasn't destined to repeat their mistakes. But the thing about family curses is, they don't die just because you say "I do." Or in my case, because you say yes. They wait. They wait until you're soft and unguarded, until your ring finger sparkles under cheap apartment lighting, and then they show you exactly who you are. You'd think betrayal would hit you like a car crash: glass, metal, the sudden roar of your own heartbeat in your ears. But mine started so quietly, I almost missed it. Just an idle Tuesday morning, coffee going cold on my nightstand, Ethan's phone buzzing like it always did when he was working late. It wasn't even a message that did it. Not a lipstick-stained text or a flirty emoji. No, I found him out because of interior design. I wish that sounded more dramatic, but the truth is embarrassingly mundane. I was curled up on the couch, the engagement ring heavy on my finger like it already knew it didn't belong there. Ethan was in the shower. His phone was on the armrest, face up. No lock screen, he'd never bothered. That's how much he trusted me to trust him. It lit up with a notification, some promotional email about a furniture store. New collections for spring. Limited time offer. I don't know what possessed me to open it. Maybe I was bored. Maybe I just liked the idea of playing future wife, picturing us shopping for a new couch together, picking out rugs and lamps like a real couple who made real plans. I opened the email. There was a link. I tapped it. It took me to my browser. That's when I saw his open tabs. 3 open tabs. One was an article about best local pizza places, typical Ethan. One was a work spreadsheet. The third was a folder in his cloud storage. That's what got me. It wasn't hidden, it wasn't labeled with anything clever like taxes or receipts. Just photos. I shouldn't have opened it. I tell myself that now, like it would have saved me somehow to stay stupid. But I did. And there they were, pictures I'd never seen before. Dozens of them. At first I thought, oh, maybe he's apartment hunting. Maybe he's found us a place. Maybe this is his big surprise. But the longer I scrolled, the harder that lie got to hold together. Because they weren't real estate photos, they were lived in. Half-finished coffee cups on a nightstand. A dent in a pillow that looked freshly abandoned. A throw blanket I'd never seen in colors he hated, pastel pink and mustard yellow. So not him. So not me. And then there was the mirror selfie. Not of him, of a woman's reflection, half caught in the background while she watered a plant on the windowsill. She was barefoot, wearing an oversized t-shirt. Her hair was up in a messy bun. Domestic. Comfortable. Like she belonged there. My stomach dropped so fast I almost laughed. For a second, I thought, what if that's his sister? He doesn't have a sister. A cousin, maybe? Except the way the photos looked, how they lingered on the bed, the bathroom, the kitchen, it felt intimate. Wrong. Like I was peering into someone else's life. Because I was. I don't know how long I sat there, just flipping through them, my fingers numb against the screen. I didn't cry. Not then. I just felt this cold, creeping clarity, like when you finally admit you're sick after days of pretending you're fine. The truth was so ugly I almost respected it. When Ethan came out of the shower, towel around his waist, hair dripping onto my couch cushions, I looked up at him and thought, you have no idea I know. And for the first time in our entire relationship, I didn't feel smaller than him. I felt bigger. Because I had the truth, and he was standing there, still performing. He kissed my forehead, asked what I wanted for dinner. I asked him where those photos were taken. He froze, just for a second. So fast I almost missed it. But I didn't. His eyes flicked to his phone in my hand, then back to me. He recovered quickly, gave me that crooked smile that used to melt me. What photos, babe? I showed him. Just turned the screen to him like I was showing him a new lamp I liked. Look at this. Look at what you did. His mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. A fish on dry land. That's for work, he said. Work. Sure. He said he was helping a coworker find a place to rent while hers was getting renovated. She needed help, she's clueless about this stuff. You know how expensive short-term leases are in this city. A coworker. A clueless coworker. He even threw in an eye roll, like we were both in on this harmless little errand of his. I asked why there were so many pictures. Why it looked like someone actually lived there. Why there was a toothbrush on the sink and groceries in a fridge. He laughed, forced, hollow. Said she'd asked him to check if the place had everything she'd need before she moved in. It was such a stupid lie. The kind of thing that might have worked if I were still the girl from 3 days ago, so desperate to keep the fairy tale alive that I'd believe he was just the world's most dedicated property scout. But that girl was already gone. I don't remember what I said after that. I think I nodded. Maybe I smiled. He left for work, a few minutes later, kissing me like nothing had changed. Like I hadn't just seen another life he'd built without me. When the door closed behind him, I sat on the couch with the ring digging into my finger. I tried to take it off, but it stuck for a second, like it knew it wasn't done punishing me yet. I thought about my mother's voice, about Emma's flat finally. I thought about that barefoot woman in the mirror, how she didn't look afraid or suspicious, just home. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay awake and replayed every second of our 3 years together. Every I love you, every plan, every night I'd fallen asleep thinking I was safe. By dawn, one thing was clear: I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overthinking. I wasn't my mother crying at a sink, pretending not to know. I knew. And I was going to find her. If you've never hunted down the truth with shaking hands and a half-dead phone battery, count yourself lucky. I didn't sleep the night after I found the photos. Didn't eat either. I just sat there, the ring turning circles on my finger while I scrolled through Ethan's cloud account, picking apart every digital breadcrumb like a woman possessed. I'd never thought of myself as a detective. I was the girl who'd lose her keys in her own purse, the one who forgot where she'd parked every single time. But give me betrayal, a scrap of evidence, and the raw need not to feel insane, and I will dig up skeletons you didn't even know you'd buried. I started with what I had, the photos. I screenshotted everything, every shot of that sunny living room with its cheerful yellow couch I'd never sat on, every angle of the kitchen with a blue kettle I'd never used. Then I did what any unhinged fiancé would do at 3 in the morning, I zoomed in. I hunted for clues like a CSI intern with a grudge. A fridge magnet. A corner of a package with an address label half visible. A street sign caught through the window. Tiny things, but they added up. By dawn, I had an address. I should have waited. Should have called someone, a friend, my sister, hell, even my mother. But pride is a stupid engine. Once it starts, it doesn't care if it's driving you into a wall. So there I was, in my car at 7 a.m., parked down the block from an apartment building I'd never seen before. The place was nothing fancy: red brick, cracked sidewalks, the kind of building where neighbors don't ask questions because they don't want you asking any either. I remember sitting behind the wheel, staring at the buzzers by the front door. My hands were slick with sweat. The ring on my finger felt like a dare. Go on. Find out how deep it goes. I didn't even know what I'd do when I saw her. Scream? Beg? Warn her? Did she even know about me? Part of me, the weak, desperate part, prayed she'd open the door and laugh. Oh God, you must be mistaken. I'm his cousin. I'm his coworker. Some flimsy excuse I could patch my dignity together with. But I already knew that wasn't how it was going to go. It took me 3 tries to buzz the right number. When the door finally clicked open, I nearly turned around. But I didn't. I climbed the stairs, my heart beat so loud I half expected someone to yell at me to keep it down. I knocked. Silence. Then I heard it, footsteps on the other side. A pause. The soft click of a chain sliding free. And there she was. The woman from the mirror. Up close, she didn't look like a monster. She looked tired. Pretty in that effortless way that stings when you feel like your own mascara's been your only armor for too long. Her hair was still in that messy bun, like she'd just gotten out of bed. She wore leggings and a big t-shirt, his t-shirt, I realized. One of the ones I'd washed and folded 100 times. She squinted at me, then at the space behind me like she was expecting someone else. Hi, I croaked. My voice sounded ridiculous, small and polite, like I was here to sell cookies. I'm Leah. She frowned, searching my face for a clue. When it didn't come, she said, okay? I'm Ethan's fiancé, I said. The word fiancé hit the air between us like a grenade with the pin half pulled. Her mouth twitched. I saw it then, the flicker of recognition, the horror blooming behind her eyes like a bruise. She didn't slam the door in my face. She didn't laugh. She just stepped aside and said, very quietly, you'd better come in. Inside, it was worse. Worse because it was so normal. A mug on the coffee table. A blanket draped over the couch, not for show, but because someone had been curled up there hours ago. A pair of men's shoes by the door. His shoes. I'd bought them for him last Christmas. They'd never been at my place. I wondered if he told her I didn't like clutter. Maybe he said I was picky about mud on the floors. She sat down first. I stayed standing, because if I sat, I'd break. How long? I asked. She looked at her hands. Her nails were bitten short. I don't know why that detail stuck with me. Maybe because I'd spent so long trying to look perfect for him, and here she was, undone and real and more honest than I'd ever been allowed to be. About 2 years, she said. Her voice was calm, too calm. Like she'd practiced. We'd been living together almost a year. I laughed. Actually laughed, a sharp, ugly sound that bounced off her white walls. Living together? He's been living with me. She didn't flinch. I didn't know about you. He told me he had an ex he was helping out. That she was a mess. That she couldn't handle being alone. I almost respected the efficiency of it, how he'd used my soft spots to excuse himself. A charity case. A girl too broken to let go of. It made sense. It explained the nights he'd stay late at work, the weekends he needed space. He wasn't cheating at motels, he was living a double life in broad daylight. I asked the question I didn't want answered. Are you, with him now? Like, engaged? Married? She looked at me, really looked, like she was taking inventory of my face for damage she couldn't see. Then she said, I'm pregnant. I swear the floor tilted under me. I grabbed the back of a chair to steady myself. For a second I thought I'd be sick right there on her carpet. And then, because the universe is nothing if not thorough, I heard myself say it too. Quiet. Automatic. Like it slipped out before my brain caught up. So am I. 2 women. 1 man. 2 unborn children. 1 stupid ring. She covered her mouth. I sank down onto her couch, their couch, my hands pressed flat against my stomach like I could protect the tiny secret I'd barely gotten used to myself. We sat there, 2 strangers bound by a lie so big it felt biblical. Neither of us spoke for a long time. When I finally did, my voice was steady. We need to end him. She laughed. And this time, it wasn't calm at all. If you told me I'd ever sit in another woman's living room, both of us pregnant by the same man, conspiring over cheap tea and unspoken rage, I would have called you insane. But there we were, me, the fiancé with the shiny ring that now felt radioactive, and her, I learned her name was Marissa, the cohabiting coworker with the same haunted look in her eyes I'd seen in the mirror that morning. It's a strange thing, sitting across from the proof that you were never special. I hated her at first. Hated her bare feet on the carpet, the gentle way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the fact that she had a whole version of Ethan I'd never met, the version who didn't keep half his life locked away in a different apartment. But as the minutes dragged on, the hate shifted, like a scab softening in warm water. I didn't want to destroy her. I wanted to compare wounds. She asked if I wanted something to drink. I almost laughed at the normalcy of it, the absurd politeness of 2 betrayed women pretending they were hosting a baby shower instead of an accidental support group for idiots. She brought me tea in a chipped mug. Neither of us touched it. Did you know? She asked finally, her voice so soft I almost missed the anger under it. I shook my head. I found out 2 days after he proposed. Her eyes flicked to my ring. I thought she might spit on it. I kind of wished she would. He told me you were his ex, she said. That you had problems. That you couldn't let go. That stung. He'd turned my loyalty into a mental illness, so convenient, so neat. I wondered how many times she'd believed him when he said, I can't stay tonight, she needs me. I wondered if he kissed her with the same mouth that told me I was his forever. Marissa rubbed her temples like she could squeeze the headache out of her skull. He told me he was ready to move in together. Permanently. He said he was finally done with whatever you were. It almost made me laugh, how neatly we'd both fit into his story, me, the tragic leftover, her, the salvation he'd graduate to once he'd done his penance with me. I could almost admire the audacity if I didn't feel so sick. I'm due in February, she said after a minute. December, I murmured. I didn't mean to say it, the word just slipped out, heavy and final. We both looked at each other then, really looked. There was no anger left, just the heavy dread of 2 women realizing they were part of the same nightmare, that we'd both let him touch our skin and make promises he never intended to keep. And now we both had living reminders of that mistake growing inside us. What are you going to do? She asked. It was the question I'd been avoiding since the test turned positive. Before the photos, before the other toothbrush, before her. I'd clung to the ring like it made the baby legitimate, like it made me legitimate. But sitting in that apartment, smelling her furniture polish and the faint leftover scent of Ethan's cologne, I realized how hollow that ring really was. I don't know yet, I said. But it wasn't true. Somewhere deep down, I did know. I just didn't have the words for it yet. Marissa leaned back against her couch, one hand resting unconsciously on her stomach. I mirrored her without thinking. It struck me, in that moment, that he'd never once touched my belly since I told him. Never asked how I felt. Never wondered if I needed anything. Maybe he thought if he ignored it long enough, it would solve itself, like every other mess he made. The front door opening jolted us both. We hadn't even heard his car. I didn't know whether to run to the kitchen or throw myself out the window. But we didn't have to decide, because there he was, Ethan, in the doorway, plastic grocery bag in hand, keys dangling from the lock. He froze when he saw us. He looked from me to Marissa, back to me, and for the first time since I'd known him, he looked small. Not suave. Not composed. Just a man caught mid-lie with no script to save him. "Leah," he said, like my name was a question. Then, to her, "Maris, what?" Marissa stood first. I stayed sitting. I liked the power in that. She crossed her arms over her chest like she was holding herself together with sheer willpower. "Sit down," she told him. He laughed, a high, fake sound I'd never heard before. He stepped inside, closed the door behind him, like that would somehow keep the truth from leaking into the hallway. "Okay, can we just sit down?" Marissa said again, and this time, he obeyed. That's how I knew it was really over, when a man like Ethan sits when you tell him to. He dropped the grocery bag by his feet. Eggs spilled out and rolled across the carpet. I watched one crack open near the leg of the coffee table. It felt poetic. Nobody spoke for a full minute. We just sat there, the three of us, the worst kind of family portrait. I wondered if the neighbors could hear the sound of our silence through the walls. Finally, I said it. The question that had burned a hole in my tongue for days. "Why?" He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I almost felt sorry for him, almost. But then I remembered the mirror selfie, the toothbrush, the ring that still pressed into my skin like a bruise. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he said. "A classic. A coward's hymn. I love you both. I just..." Marissa snorted so loudly it startled him. "Save it, Ethan. You don't love anyone. You just didn't want to feel guilty." He turned to me then, his eyes soft, practiced. "Leah, baby, you know I love you." "I just..." "Don't," I said. One word. He flinched like I'd slapped him. I don't know what I expected. Tears? Begging? Some grand confession that would make it all make sense? Instead, he looked at me like I was being unreasonable for existing in the same room as my own betrayal. Like I'd made this awkward. "You proposed to me," I said, my voice so calm it scared even me. "While you were living here. While she's pregnant. While I'm pregnant." He swallowed. I watched his Adam's apple bob like he was trying to choke down the last scraps of his excuses. I thought if I proposed, I wouldn't feel so bad. About everything. And there it was. The ugliest truth. He'd given me forever because he couldn't stand the weight of what he was doing. My yes was his absolution. Marissa laughed, but it wasn't funny. It was the sound of something breaking so deep you couldn't reach it if you tried. I stood up then. Pulled the ring off my finger. It came off so easily now, like my body was done pretending it belonged there. I dropped it on the table between us. He didn't reach for it. Neither did I. I wish I could tell you I threw the ring at his head. That I screamed, trashed the place, gave him a scar to match the one he'd carved through my life. But the truth is more boring, and more painful. I didn't need to rage. His shame was louder than anything I could have said. Marissa and I stood side by side like some grim sisterhood, two women with matching scars and matching secrets under our skin. He sat there with that stupid cracked egg by his foot, looking at me like I might pick it all up for him one last time. Like maybe I'd say, "It's okay. I forgive you. We can fix this." But I'd spent 3 years patching holes in a sinking boat. I was out of duct tape and illusions. "Do you want the ring back?" I asked him, voice flat. He didn't answer. He just stared at it, sitting on her cheap coffee table like a hostage no one wanted to claim. I turned to Marissa. "I'm done. With him. With this." She nodded, but her eyes flicked to Ethan, like she couldn't quite trust that he wouldn't worm his way back in with a few soft lies and half-truths. I understood that look. I'd worn it myself too long. He tried then, because of course he did. He started with her first. "Maris, you know I love you. This is just a misunderstanding. Leah's always..." "Don't," I snapped. The word cracked across the room like a whip. I looked at her. "Don't let him spin it. It's not your fault. It's not mine. It's his. And we don't owe him anything anymore." She looked at me then like she wanted to believe it, needed to. I could almost see her weighing it in her head, the baby, the rent, the soft comfort of his arms that she'd probably still half loved despite it all. I didn't blame her. Loving a lie makes fools of us all. I slipped my bag onto my shoulder. I didn't pack anything from his life, not the toothbrush he kept at mine, not the hoodie I'd stolen, not the wine glasses he liked because they made him feel grown up. I left it all for him to sort through like a grave he'd dug with his own hands. "Where are you going?" he asked, voice cracking. Good, I thought. Let him feel something for once. "Home," I said. And for the first time in days, that word didn't feel like a prison. He started to stand, but Marissa stepped in front of him. Her shoulders were squared, her face pale but unyielding. "Don't follow her," she said. "Don't follow me either. We're done." His eyes darted between us like a cornered animal. I think, in his mind, he still believed one of us would fold. Maybe both. But the thing about betrayal is, once it's exposed, it can't go back in the box. You can't pretend it didn't happen. You can't unsee the other toothbrush by the sink. "Leah," he tried again. I didn't let him finish. I walked out the door, down the cracked stairwell that smelled like old paint and stale cigarette smoke, into the bright, indifferent sunlight. Outside, I stood on the sidewalk for a minute, just breathing. The wind caught my hair. I felt the weight of my stomach, small but real. Proof of life. Of something worth saving, even if he wasn't. I didn't have a plan. Not really. My apartment was still full of him, his sweaters draped over my chair, his spare charger plugged in by my bed. The wedding magazines I'd hidden under the coffee table like a kid hoarding candy. All of it poisoned now. But it was mine. And I'd start there. I sat in my car for 10 minutes before I could even put the keys in the ignition. I stared at my hands, bare now, the faint ring line already fading. I pressed my palm to my belly and said it out loud for the first time, "It's just you and me now." It didn't sound sad. It sounded like a promise. When I got back to my place, I half expected him to be there, waiting, begging. He wasn't. Cowards rarely stick around when they can hide. His absence felt cleaner than any apology could have. I packed his things into a single box. Hoodie, charger, toothbrush, a bottle of shampoo he insisted on using because it made his hair look thicker. I could have poured it down the drain, but that felt petty. I didn't want petty. I wanted gone. I texted him once, "Your stuff's on the porch. Pick it up or don't. I don't care." Then I blocked his number. Blocked his social media. Blocked his mother, too, because I didn't want her calling me in that syrupy voice she'd used to excuse him. "He's always been complicated, Leah." He didn't mean it. He did. And even if he hadn't, it didn't matter anymore. By sunset, my apartment felt lighter. Like it had exhaled with me. The only thing left was the ring. I'd left it on Marissa's table like a rotten fruit. Let him explain that to her if he dared. Maybe she'd pawn it. Maybe she'd melt it down. Maybe she'd hurl it at his face the next time he lied, because he would lie again. It's what men like him do. They tell themselves they're good men who made a bad choice. But good men don't make nests in two hearts at once. That night, I lay in my bed alone. No extra toothbrush in my bathroom. No half-squeezed toothpaste tube. No weight beside me, stealing my blankets and my peace. I felt my baby move for the first time. Or maybe I just wanted to. Either way, it was enough. I whispered to the ceiling, "I'm not my mother. I'm not you. I'm done." And for the first time in my life, I believed myself. If you think the story ends with me walking away and never looking back, you'd be half right. I didn't burn his clothes on the lawn. I didn't key his car or trash his reputation online. I didn't scream at him in public or show up at his work to tell everyone what he did. Maybe part of me wanted the fireworks, the public spectacle. But revenge is exhausting. And frankly, I was tired of giving him any more of my energy. But there's a difference between revenge and the truth. And the truth, I decided, was worth every last drop of my courage. 2 days after I left Marissa's apartment, and left that cursed ring behind like a dead weight, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, a mug of tea I didn't drink, and my phone beside me, vibrating with messages I wasn't reading. The first message was from Emma, "Call me now." I hadn't told her yet, not really. Just a single text, "Ethan lied. It's over." She'd called 3 times that night. I hadn't answered. I couldn't stand her sympathy yet. I didn't want her pity wrapped up in her perfect, fixed-up life. I'd get there on my own terms. The second message was from an unknown number. Ethan, probably, using a work phone or a burner account like the coward he was. I didn't open it. I didn't want to hear his excuses or his soft apologies meant to hook me back in. There was nothing he could say that would sound like love anymore. So instead, I opened a blank email. And I wrote. I wrote everything. Every detail. How he proposed to me on my living room floor while his other life waited in another bed. How he'd tucked my dreams inside a velvet box because the weight of his guilt got too heavy for him to carry alone. How he'd left 2 women holding the pieces of his honesty, and 2 unborn children who'd one day ask where their father was when they needed him. I attached the photos. The mirror selfie. The apartment shots. Proof that I wasn't the crazy ex he'd painted me to be. Proof that this wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a choice, his choice. Then I found every email address I could. His parents. His brother. His childhood best friend, the one who'd stood in my kitchen 3 months ago, clapping Ethan on the back and telling him, "You're a lucky bastard, man. Don't screw this up." His boss. I didn't care if that one was too far, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Let them all see what he'd been so careful to hide. It wasn't about destroying him. It was about telling the truth. If he wanted to wear the mask of good man so badly, he could explain the cracks himself. I hesitated before I hit send. Not because I was worried about him, I'd stopped caring about that the minute I saw Marissa's face in that mirror. No, I hesitated because of me. Because once I pressed that button, there was no more pretending. No more maybe. No more rewriting the ending to save my own pride. But then I looked at my belly, barely showing yet, but they're all the same. A quiet reminder that this story didn't end with me. And I knew that one day, when my child asked me where their father was, I'd tell them I'd tried to stop the cycle. That I'd chosen honesty over shame. That I'd told the truth, even when it hurt. So I clicked send. And I sat there alone in my kitchen, the cursor blinking like a heartbeat on the screen. It didn't take long for the fallout to come knocking. His mother called first, 3 times in a row. Voicemails, all variations of the same angry confusion. "How could you do this to him, Leah? This is private. You're blowing things out of proportion. We can talk about this like adults." I didn't answer. I didn't owe her my silence anymore. Then his brother, "I'm sorry. I didn't know. If you need anything." That one almost made me cry, not because I needed his pity, but because it reminded me that there are men out there who mean their promises. Just not the one I'd chosen. I didn't hear from Ethan for 2 days. I imagined him slithering through excuses, telling his parents I was unstable, telling Marissa I was lying, telling himself he could still fix it if he just found the right combination of half-truths. But lies only work when no one's talking to each other anymore. And I'd made sure they all were. On the 3rd day, he showed up at my door. Not the soft knock of a man ready to apologize, but the frantic pounding of someone who knows they've lost control. I didn't open it. I watched him through the peephole, his hair a mess, his eyes darting to the side like he was checking for witnesses. He didn't look like the Ethan who'd kissed my forehead after slipping a ring on my finger. He looked like a boy caught with stolen candy, too stupid to know the whole store had cameras. "Leah, open the door. Come on, baby. We can talk about this. You didn't have to tell everyone." His voice was muffled by the wood between us, but I heard the desperation in it. It almost made me sick, how small he sounded. How little I felt for him now that the lie had been dragged into daylight. I didn't open the door. I didn't say a word. After a while, he stopped pounding. I watched him stand there on my porch like a stray dog, shifting from foot to foot, waiting for me to come out and feed him scraps of forgiveness. I didn't. When he left, I sat on the couch, my hand resting on the gentle curve of my stomach. For the first time in weeks, my heartbeat felt steady. Not fixed. Not whole. But steady, like I'd stepped outside of the hurricane and found solid ground again. Some people think closure comes from forgiveness. But that's a lie. Sometimes closure is just a locked door, a blocked number, and the sound of your own breath in the silence you used to fill. I didn't forgive him that day. I don't know if I ever will. But I knew, at least, that he'd never again mistake my silence for permission. People like to say forgiveness sets you free. I think that's one of those polite lies we tell each other to make betrayal easier to swallow, like putting frosting on burnt cake. It sounds good when you whisper it to yourself at 3 a.m., but when you're the one scraping the ash off your tongue, forgiveness just feels like giving away the last piece of yourself that still belongs to you. I didn't forgive Ethan. I didn't even try. Instead, I did something that surprised everyone, especially me. I let him go, and I meant it. It didn't happen all at once. I didn't wake up with sunlight pouring through my window like some cliché and think, "Ah, yes, today I am healed." That's not how poison leaves your veins. It seeps out slow and mean, one drop at a time, and some of it never leaves at all. But you get used to the taste. You learn to stop blaming your own throat for burning. The day after I sent that email to his family, the digital stake through the heart of his good boy persona, I did something small. I changed the locks. I paid for a cheap handyman off an app. He showed up with a toolbox and a polite smile and didn't ask why a woman 8 weeks pregnant with dark circles under her eyes was changing the bolts on her door. He just did the job. It was the first time in weeks I felt like something was firmly mine again. Then I went room by room. Collected the leftover Ethan debris, the backup phone charger, the fancy beard oil he never used but liked to brag about owning, the drawer where he kept a spare sweater and socks because he'd practically moved in, a joke I'd once found adorable. Into a box it all went. His favorite whiskey glass, the one he insisted made him look distinguished while he watched cheap thrillers on my couch, that went too. I set the box by the door. I didn't call him to pick it up. I didn't warn him. I simply texted his brother, "It's outside. Tell him if he wants it, he can take it by sundown." After that, it's trash day. It felt petty and holy. Like ripping out a splinter that had burrowed too deep to reach until now. When the box disappeared a few hours later, I didn't look out the window to see if it was him. I didn't need to know. It wasn't about him anymore. I spent the next days in small acts of defiance against my own ghosts. I sat on my couch, and ate cereal for dinner, dribbling milk on my shirt without worrying about who'd call me sloppy. I left the bathroom door open when I peed. I played music too loud. I watched trashy reality shows until midnight, ignoring the voice in my head that used to tell me to shhh because the neighbors might think we're white trash. They might. Let them. The ring-shaped dent on my finger faded. I found myself touching that bare skin constantly, as if my body kept checking for a chain that wasn't there anymore. Sometimes I thought about Marissa. She texted me once, "I'm so sorry." I texted back, "Don't be. We're free." She didn't reply, but she didn't need to. We'd said what needed saying. She'd make her own choice about him, about that baby. Maybe she'd run back, maybe she'd slam the door for good. It wasn't mine to fix. My half of the mess was enough for me. I don't know if people understand how powerful it is to choose nothing instead of something poisoned. Everyone thinks the hardest part of leaving a liar is the heartbreak. It's not. The hardest part is the echo of the life you thought you'd have, the imaginary wedding playlist you'd already made in your head, the paint colors for the nursery, the stupid Pinterest board you curated at 2 a.m. when you couldn't sleep because you were so busy dreaming about a man who wasn't even real. I deleted it all. One night I sat cross-legged on my bed, phone in hand, and unpinned every photo of lace dresses, white flowers, reception playlists, and couples goal memes. I didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I was done feeding the ghost. I replaced it with something else. A new board, private, just for me, called home. Nothing fancy, baby onesies, soft blankets, second-hand cribs, a picture of a rocking chair that didn't match anything but made me smile anyway. A version of a life that didn't depend on someone else's half-hearted loyalty to feel real. A week later, Emma showed up at my door unannounced. She didn't knock gently, she banged like a debt collector. I opened it and found her standing there, arms crossed, eyes sharp enough to cut glass. "I brought groceries," she snapped. Like that was her excuse for breaking my solitude. She stormed in, dumped the bags on my counter, and stared at me. "Are you okay?" she asked, but her voice made it clear she didn't want the polite lie. She wanted the meat of it. "I'm fine," I said. She narrowed her eyes. "Leah." I sighed. Sat down at my kitchen table while she put away almond milk and overpriced granola bars I'd never buy for myself. "I'm not okay," I admitted. "But I will be. And that's enough." She looked at me for a long time. Then she crossed the room, knelt down, and pressed her forehead to my belly like she was whispering secrets to the future. Maybe she was. I didn't ask. Some things are better left floating in the air between sisters who never quite knew how to love each other properly until now. So, no, I didn't forgive Ethan. I didn't torch his car. I didn't poison his coffee or key a confession into his hood. I chose something quieter. Harder. Braver. I chose the locked door. The empty drawer. The soft place in my chest where my child's heartbeat would soon echo louder than his memory. And when people say I should forgive him, I smile and nod, but I know the truth. Sometimes the best revenge is no revenge at all. Sometimes the best revenge is just never letting him come back in. The thing they don't tell you about endings is how strangely ordinary they feel once the worst part is over. I half expected my apartment to feel haunted by him forever, like I'd catch his cologne in the hallway or find one of his socks behind the dryer 6 months later. But the ghosts fade faster than you think when you stop feeding them. I woke up one morning and realized I hadn't thought about him before I made my coffee. Just made it. 1 sugar instead of 2. Almond milk. Sat on the couch with my feet tucked under me, scrolling through listings for baby cribs and local parenting classes. I didn't cry. I didn't whisper "why me?" into my mug. I just was. And I almost didn't recognize myself without the constant ache. It's unsettling how your mind looks for the pain when it's gone. I'd grown so used to adjusting myself around Ethan's moods, Ethan's stories, Ethan's careful lies, that without him I felt a little hollow at first, like a room that echoes too much when you say hello. But empty space can be good. Empty space can be filled with things you choose on purpose. Emma stayed close for a while, closer than she'd ever been when I was busy performing happiness for the family group chat. She'd swing by after work with bags of groceries I never asked for, fussing about vitamins and baby-safe cleaning products like I didn't know how to Google. She tried not to say "I told you so," but I could see it perched on her tongue sometimes, like a bird she was dying to let fly. One night she caught me scrolling through an old album on my phone, not even the photos of Ethan, but the random moments in between. A half-eaten pizza on the floor, our shoes tangled at the door, a blurry picture of him kissing my forehead while I pretended not to see the camera. She snatched the phone out of my hand before I could sink into it. "You don't need that," she said, her voice too soft to be cruel. "I know. You really do?" I did. I deleted the whole album that night. 632 photos. 632 tiny traps. Gone in under a minute. Emma squeezed my shoulder like she was proud, and for the first time, I let myself feel grateful for her neat, tidy life instead of resenting it. Maybe I'd never be Emma, with her matching kitchen towels and a husband who actually came home at night, but I didn't need to be. My life would look different. Messier. Smaller, maybe. But mine. I found a therapist. That sounds like a small thing, but if you grew up like I did, taught to keep the dirty family secrets sealed behind polite smiles and tight throats, then you know it's a rebellion all on its own. I sat on a squeaky couch across from a woman with warm eyes and a notebook, and I told her everything. The proposal. The toothbrush. The mirror selfie. The eggs cracking on Marissa's carpet. I cried harder when I talked about the ring than when I talked about him. She told me that made sense, because it wasn't about him. It was about what I thought I'd bought with my loyalty, certainty, safety, a future that made sense. She asked what I wanted now. Not what I wanted from him. Not what I wanted back. But what I wanted, in the raw, terrifying blank space he'd left behind. And for the first time I said it out loud, I want my baby to know they're enough, even if I never find someone else to stand next to me at the playground. Some days were messier than that therapy office. Some days I woke up with his name in my throat like a splinter and had to drink tea just to swallow it down. Some days I hated Marissa for existing, for living the other half of my lie. And then I hated myself for hating her. Some days I hated my mother for making it look normal to stay with a man who deserved to be left the first time he lied. Some days I hated Emma for not warning me harder, for not saving me from myself. I hated a lot of people. But mostly, I hated him. And then, when I got tired of that, I hated him less. Because hate is heavy. I was tired of carrying his weight for free. I didn't hear from Ethan again, not directly, anyway. His brother sent a single message. He says he wants to talk. Wants to make things right. I typed back, "There's nothing left to make right." Then I blocked the number. I pictured Ethan sitting in some borrowed apartment, telling himself I'd cool off, that I'd come back around like he hadn't scorched the bridge and danced in the flames. I almost wished him luck. Almost. About a month after the ring hit Marissa's coffee table, she called me. Just once. She didn't ask how I was, we both knew we didn't owe each other that. She just said, "I told him not to come back. I thought you should know." There was a pause where I think she wanted me to say "good job" or "I'm proud of you." But all I said was, "Good. Take care of yourself." "You too," she said. And that was it. That was all the sisterhood we needed, two strangers tied together by the same tornado, walking away in opposite directions with something to show for it. I keep telling myself I'll take the ultrasound photo off the fridge. Replace it with a better one, a new one. I keep telling myself I'll stop tracing the shape of my belly in the mirror like I'm checking for bruises that aren't there. But healing is slow. And that's okay. I've got time now. Time that's mine. Sometimes I think about the wedding playlist I never made. The dress I never bought. The photos I never posted. I think about how they're gone, like dust you sweep under a rug one last time before throwing the rug out too. And in their place is something small and soft, kicking inside me when I least expect it. Something that has never lied to me. Something that will never make me wonder if I'm enough. I don't know if I'm ready to forgive him. But I do know this, I'm done forgiving myself for not seeing it sooner. I see it all now. And that's more than enough. If you'd asked me a year ago how I thought my story would end, I'd have described a house with a white fence, a husband who kissed me every night, a baby in a crib painted the same soft green we'd seen on Pinterest. I'd have told you about Sunday mornings tangled up in sheets that smelled like us, about anniversary dinners and matching mugs with cheesy slogans like Mr. Right and Mrs. Always Right. Instead, I got a half-empty apartment, a box of his leftovers gone from my porch, and the steady drum of my baby's heartbeat on a grainy ultrasound print taped to the fridge. Not what I ordered. But exactly what I needed. The first time I felt truly free was a stupid moment. I was pushing a grocery cart through the store, half listening to a podcast about single motherhood that I'd found by accident. I passed the baby aisle, rows of diapers, wipes, tiny pastel socks that looked too small to belong to any real human. Before, that aisle used to twist my stomach in knots. Will he help? Will he stay? Will he run? Now, I stood there alone. No ring on my finger. No phantom hand on my shoulder telling me which brand was better. Just me. Picking up a pack of newborn diapers, reading the back like it was a foreign language I was determined to learn. An old woman passed by. She looked at my belly, then at my left hand. She raised her eyebrows, the smallest flicker of judgment. A year ago I'd have felt the heat of her eyes for hours afterward. I'd have made up a story in my head about a husband working late, about a fairy tale waiting at home to make the story respectable. But this time? I just smiled at her. Not a big grin, just enough to say, yeah. It's just me. And we're just fine, thanks. And she turned her cart and kept moving, because what could she do with a woman who wasn't ashamed? Emma still calls every other night. She always tries to mask her worry with bossy big sister chatter. Did you take your vitamins? Are you eating enough protein? Some days I snap at her. Some days I let her fuss over me like I'm 6 years old again with scraped knees. I'm learning not to feel smaller for needing help. That's new for me. Moms come back around too, cautiously, the way you step onto a frozen pond you're not sure will hold you. She apologizes for Dad in ways she doesn't say outright. I don't tell her I forgive her because I'm not sure I do. But I let her fold baby clothes with me at the kitchen table. I let her talk about names. I let her rub my back when I can't sleep. It's not perfect. But it's real. And real is enough. Some nights, when the apartment is too quiet, I wonder if Ethan tells people about me. Does he spin his story like he always did? She went crazy. She trapped me. She couldn't handle it. Maybe somewhere out there he's telling his version of the truth, painting himself the poor victim of 2 hormonal women who dared to want more than a warm body and a promise. It doesn't matter. Let him talk. Let him spin. Let him live in the lie if it makes him feel less hollow. I've got better things to do than worry about a man who couldn't hold my name in his mouth without spitting it out half-finished. I'm building something now, piece by piece. A drawer full of tiny clothes. A shelf of second-hand baby books. A new mug that says Mama in tacky pink letters. It doesn't match my other dishes. I don't care. Maybe I'll buy a baby bear one next, tacky as hell, because it'll be ours and no one else's. I'm not pretending it'll be easy. I don't fantasize about some faceless good man showing up to rescue us. If he does, fine, but we won't need him. That's the difference now. I don't need saving. Just a good crib, a safe home, and a baby who will grow up knowing they were wanted even when the person who made them didn't have the courage to stay. Sometimes I feel my baby roll inside me at 3 a.m. and I whisper, "It's you and me." I say it like a prayer, a promise, a threat to any ghost of him that might still be lurking under my ribs. You and me. And it's enough. So, yeah. He proposed to me to wash the guilt off his hands, and it didn't work. He gave me a ring to hide the other life he'd built like a rotting nest under our bed, and I found it anyway. He thought I'd stay quiet, pick my pride out of my teeth and swallow it down. He thought wrong. The ring is gone. The lie is gone. And in its place is something small and loud and growing every day, under my skin, in my chest, in the quiet corners of my apartment that don't echo so much anymore. He didn't give me forever. But he gave me this. And this is mine.